Aloha! Our family lived in Airbnb rentals for 10 months straight. We're going to share with you our top tips for booking an Airbnb.
1, 2, 3,
Aloha!
We are Kensho Quest.
We travel to open our minds and our hearts.
Let's make friends around the world!
First, we're going to share our top tips. Then we'll walk you through an example step by step of how to book an Airbnb.
If you're new to Airbnb, you're going to want to book with a superhost only. This is for your own benefit and for your own safety, just in case something goes wrong. Superhosts, they already have a really good track record, and the chances are you're going to get really good service. Now, before you actually book, you want to always communicate with your host. I find this to be very, very important because a lot of times, if you don't, you may not get along with your host and they may not be there for you when you need them. Let me give an example. One time, I contacted a host and I just asked them about the noise level. So this is one thing we usually always ask about is the noise, and they're usually pretty honest. But this one lady who was the superhost took offense to that, and she says, you know what, I don't think this place is for you. So that was a good sign for us to, well, okay, it's definitely not for us to find somewhere else.
Also, it may turn out while you're staying there that you need their help. Like if there's a huge spider on the curtain and you say, help, come get the spider out.
Right.
So you want somebody who's going to respond when you message them.
Yes, and not only respond, but somebody who's actually going to be helpful for you, because you never know what could happen. Things can go wrong, and it's really good to have somebody who communicates with you well and somebody that you get along with as well.
Our next tip is to book a long stay. Often there'll be a discount starting at if you book for 1 week, and then there's usually a really good discount if you book for a whole month. So our family always likes to stay at least a month at a time to take advantage of any discounts.
Also, since we're a family, we like to slow travel, so it works out really well for us. And the discounts, they can be quite substantive. Sometimes we've saved as much as 40%. Another way to save money that we found to be highly effective is, again, by communicating with your host and getting to know them. After your first stay, ask them for a discount if you're going to stay longer. And I would say at least 90% of the time, they've given us a discount.
He's really good with that, about building rapport and then getting that discount. Sometimes we just extend and stay longer. Sometimes we come back after we've visited somewhere else.
Next is know your total cost. This can bite you in the butt if you're not really paying attention to the rules. And sometimes it may not even be written in the rules. So again, this is another reason to ask your host, especially if you're staying long-term. For instance, if you're staying a month or longer, many times electricity won't be included or other services may not be included because they don't know how much power you're going to use. So it's kind of understandable. So even if it says, whatever it says written on the Airbnb listing, also ask your host and to confirm that, because we've been bitten in the butt by that recently, actually, where the hosts, when we arrived, the host actually made us sign all these papers, and we were so tired that we just did it because we're just like, we just need to get her out of here.
And she's like, this one is for the electricity bill you'll be paying, and we're both like, what?
What? Yeah.
We didn't know we were going to have to pay for electricity, and then since we were so taken aback, she actually threw in an extra weekly maid service for us to kind of make up for that. We had to pay for electricity unexpectedly. Of course, super important is the location. For us, we're always looking for somewhere that's either walkable or really close to good public transportation, like on a train line, near a bus, easy to get grab taxis. And another thing that can be a big turnoff is if it's a noisy location. So if you see a train track right next to your Airbnb on the map, be prepared for it to be noisy. Here are some tips for when you arrive at your Airbnb. First, check for any damage to report to your host, just in case the guest before you left something damaged. Like that time the previous guest had punched a hole into the refrigerator. If you have toddler or young kids, move fragile items out of the way. Also look for any items that could be dangerous. Often in Asia, there's a knife right inside the kitchen cabinet, so you'll want to move those out of your toddler's reach. Also ask for an extra key, and if you need an ID card to access the pool or other amenities. And the Wi-Fi password.
Some tips for when you're checking out. First of all, leave the place the way you found it. That's the #1 rule. #2, clean it the best you can. 3, the reason why you want to do these things is because if you want to return to the property and the host knows that you took care of the place, there's a better chance they'll rent it to you and a good chance for you when you ask for that discount.
Also, let them know if you or any of your kids broke something. We've been charged just small fees for things our kids drew on.
Yeah, so just be honest about it, and usually there's not an issue. Now let's walk you through the Airbnb booking process. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have an account. One of the reasons why you want to have an account ahead of time is so you can save your favorites, which can be very useful later, especially if you're going to have to choose between several properties. Let's go ahead and look for a place. I'm just going to choose Bangkok, Thailand. And for the dates, I'm going to choose flexible. This is something new, and flexible is really good because it gives you a better opportunity to choose a property that might not otherwise be available. Let's go ahead and choose a month long. The reason why I'm choosing a month is because we usually do long-term travel, and the longer you stay, the better chance of you getting a discount. And usually if you stay a month or longer, it can be pretty significant. It's very common also, starting from a week, you can get a discount. All right, so I'm just going to choose June for the fun of it. And then for your guests, make sure that this is accurate. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the search button. The next step is to go through these filters up here. Let's start with the cancellation flexibility. The cancellation policies in general that I've experienced abroad is not very good. So usually don't have a lot of flexibility here. So be very careful with this. I'm just going to leave this off. Next, I'm going to choose the type of place. We always choose entire place, but that is completely up to you. If you want to save money, you can get a private room, a hotel room, or a shared room. We prefer to usually get a condo, so we always check entire place, but this could also be a house or an apartment or something like that. I'm going to click save. And for the price range, I usually don't select this. It could really limit you, and you might be willing to pay a little bit more. So I like to leave this open and list thousands of results. Let's click on more filters. Instant book. I don't check this. This is not really all that important to me because I like to do my research ahead of time. The next thing is verified places. Again, I don't check this one too. It's nice, but I'm looking for superhosts. That's the most important thing for me. Scroll down here. I don't ever check beds for bedrooms. Even though I'm looking for a 2-bedroom, I only check 1. And the reason is, depending on your location and in some foreign countries as well, they may think of bedrooms as a little bit different than we do. So by only marking 1, then I know for sure I'm going to get at least 1 bedroom. And usually I'll get 2 without any issues as well. Same with bathrooms. I don't check that either since we're looking for an entire place. Chances are the unit's going to have at least 1 bathroom. And then I scroll down. Superhost I think is very, very important, especially when you're starting out because you don't want to get a host that's unresponsive, and especially if you have an issue like that. I, again, don't tick this, and the reason why is because a lot of times there can also be some really good deals out there from new hosts. And just because you're not a super host doesn't mean you're a bad host either. So I like to leave that unchecked and look for those too. A little bit farther down are the amenities. Again, here I only check what is absolutely necessary. Since we are going to Thailand, I don't need heating. One thing we always want though is a kitchen, and we want AC, and we want a washer and Wi-Fi. None of these other things here are really important to us. Facilities, we always check pool again because Bangkok's really hot and we want a swimming pool. And property type, all these are good with us, so I don't check those, and I don't check any of these either. Now this neighborhood, if you know the area really well, you might want to tick this. However, I also like to leave this open just in case there are some places that are mischecked and or near neighborhoods that I also like. I'm going to go ahead and click on show stays, and right away, I can see this first one is looking pretty good, and you can see it says superhost, so that's good. If I wanted to, I can already start clicking through some of these photos here. And I like to read the little blurb up in here that says for 5 guests, 2 bedrooms, 2 beds, and 1 bathroom. So that's good. That's a minimum for us, what we're looking for. And this review rating is really good. And this is a very enticing price too. Another thing I like to do is look at the map here and make sure it's an area I want. So if I hover over this picture, you can see that it is lighting up on the map down there in the Prakanong area, which is super for us. We like that area really well. So this is a really good location for us. So if I wanted to and say, you know what, I'm interested in this area only, I could just move the map over here and even zoom in a little closer and say, okay, only show me properties in this area, and make sure that this checkbox is ticked up here too. And now this has been reduced even more to only show me properties in this immediate area. Another really important thing, no matter what city you are in, we want to be near one of these lines. Whenever we're in a city, we're looking to be near transportation. If there's no train, then there should be at least a bus or taxis or some other form of public transportation that we can get on. And with Bangkok, again, we're just looking for these major lines to be near that because, see, you don't want to be way out here in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have anything, because then you're going to end up spending a lot of time and money on transportation. So I'm going to go back over here, and I like this one a lot. It sounds pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this first one. Once this property is loaded, you can start looking at all the pictures here. When I'm going through these pictures, what I'm looking for is things that might be unsafe for our kids. Here's an interesting one here. Look at this bedroom. You can see that. Look how close this bed is to this wall. So there's not a whole lot of space in here. You can see this bed is taking up this entire room. So that's something to take into consideration. Here in the living room, again, it's not a very big area, but it is separate, and you can see that those other rooms are separate. I'm looking here at this table here. It has a sharp corner, so for my kids, this is not so good. And they have some glasses over here. What I would do is I would ask the host if we can put these away, same with these vases, if they're okay with us putting stuff away, or if they can even do that ahead of time so our kids can't pick them up and break them. For doors, make sure that the bedrooms have doors, and this is so my wife and I, we can work at night and not disturb our kids. Another thing we look for is actually the curtains. We're looking for blackout curtains usually as well, because especially if you're in a large city, you don't want curtains that are just like this, this see-through stuff here. You want full blackout curtains that can make it nice and dark. I can see there's a washer back here. It's in the kitchen, and back here is a little balcony, which is nice, and a pretty good sized fridge. So this is looking pretty nice overall. I haven't found too many things that might be dangerous for our kids. And here's a bonus for us. We always like to have a rice cooker and a hot water pot. Microwave is a bonus too, but these are the most important ones for us. And here's another tip is if your unit doesn't have something that you need, ask your host. There's a very good chance they will provide it for you if you are very nice about it. And if they're a super host, there's a good chance you might get that. Now let's go through the rest of the listing. If you look at this picture here, you can see that there's this badge here. This means that this host is a super host again. So this is another signifier to know that your host is a super host. I would definitely go through and read everything here. I like this, that this has an enhanced clean process. That's good, especially in these times of COVID. House rules, I would always read these, especially if you're a smoker, because we're always looking for a place that's non-smoking. So we want to make sure that the place has not been smoked in. And then here we can see the check-in, check-out times. Another thing is always ask your host if you can check in earlier or check out late if you need to do that. And many times, as long as they don't have somebody in there right after or right before you, they're usually pretty flexible about that. And then here we have a little description about the property and the location. And this is nice. It has it in more than one language, which is very useful. And down here is the sleeping arrangements. We can see that there is one king bed and one queen bed. That's great. Down a little bit farther are the amenities. Now, sometimes this can be really confusing. So if you look at all the amenities, they may sometimes say dryer in them. Don't ever believe that there's a dryer in the unit. This is a very rare thing to have a dryer in the property. So if you need a dryer, I would definitely ask the host and make sure there is one, because they might say, oh yeah, there's outside on the balcony, you can hang your clothes. That's your dryer. Heating and cooling, there's definitely no heating here. But AC, we can see that there is. So again, go through these things, and just because it says it's listed on here doesn't necessarily mean the property has it. So if you need that, make sure you ask. Here's a good one here is the pool and gym. Now this is really common in a lot of properties, especially these days. And this is all over the world, is that a lot of these properties aren't even allowed to be having Airbnbs. And because of that, you may not get access to all the facilities. So even though your host is renting it, they may be doing it illegally. So you might want to find out about that. And if you have a problem with that, then choose a different property. But sometimes, in order to even get access to the pool, you're going to need a pool card. So make sure you have all the information on that. It's always very important after that, before you make a decision, is to come down and read some of the reviews. And when you do that, I'm always looking for bad reviews as well. So I see there's a lot of good reviews, but I wish there was a way to show only bad reviews. But as you can see, this is really high rating here overall. Definitely go through, because a lot of times if you have questions, you can find answers to them in here. If you look at the price, you can see that there it says $1,289, but it's been slashed out. Now it says $774. Now the reason why you're getting this discount is because we have entered for a month, and actually this is actually only 28 days. Let me just show you an example of how much you're saving. If I just change this now to the 28th, now look at it. Now we're only getting a 10% weekly discount. So you see the huge difference. This is why we always stay for at least a month. So I'm going to go ahead and change that back. But as you can see down here, we have some extra fees. Cleaning fee of $40. That's not bad. Sometimes it's really higher. And there's a service fee. This is the Airbnb fee, and it's $86. Sometimes this is really high. And I personally, I like Airbnb, but I think their fees are ridiculous for the service that you actually get from them. My experience of contacting them and asking for help has been not very good. That's why you need to make sure you can communicate very well with your host. Now, as you can see, cancel before 2 p.m. on June 1st to get a full refund minus the first 30 days and the service fee. So you're going to pay the service fee no matter what, and minus the first 30 days. So let's say if you booked for 31 days, well, guess what? You're only going to get 1 day refund if you need to cancel after 48 hours. Terrible, huh? I think so. So if you are going to book, just make sure that you are pretty set on your dates. Now, this is Airbnb's rule. However, if you really do need to cancel, what I would do is I would contact the host directly. Maybe they'll have some mercy on you and give you your money back. So once I'm satisfied with all this, the next step is I would contact the host and I would ask them a question. Any question, just ask them a question. And one thing you can do at this time as well is you can ask for things. For instance, if you need a high chair for your baby, there's a good chance they can get that for you. If not, ask them where you could get it. The important thing here is to start a conversation with them and to see how receptive they are to you. Again, just in case if something goes wrong or you need help, you'll be able to get this from them. This is a very good chance after you make contact with them that they will invite you to book. This is just very common practice. Don't be surprised by that. If they send you an invitation to book, you are under no obligation to book. Once you're done with that, you can go ahead and start the reservation process.
Those are our tips. We hope you now feel confident to book through Airbnb. We're thinking of doing another video where we compare Airbnb to other rental websites. So let us know in the comments if you'd be interested in watching that. And if you have your own tips to add those in the comments as well. Watch our apartment tour videos to see some of the Airbnbs we've stayed in.